Hey guys, how's it going? If you don't know me, my name is Mari and I've been living in New Zealand for about 2 years now. I'm originally from the US, from California. I just thought you guys might have some questions about living in New Zealand and all that. I asked on Instagram for you to send me some questions about living in New Zealand. Let's get right into it so I can try to answer as many as possible. Cuisine, ooh, well, overall, I'd say it's not like too wildly different from the United States. I've talked with people about this before. It's hard to really pinpoint what is New Zealand cuisine. It has a really strong British influence. There is also the traditional Maori food, and then there are some things that are kind of just specific to New Zealand. Pies are very popular. You can get them everywhere. They're like meat and cheese, or I don't know, all different kinds. My favorite is actually a salmon and bacon pie. Oh, it's pretty good. If you've never been to New Zealand before, then before you try and settle down, get a job, do anything, I think it's really good to like explore and see the country and kind of figure out what part of New Zealand you want to live in. Because there's just so many different parts of New Zealand. Like the North Island has a lot more like beaches and like rolling green hills, and then the South Island has a lot of like dramatic mountains and different landscapes. So it kind of depends what you're looking for, and do you want to be in a big city? Do you want to be in a small town? First of all, I think just come try and figure that out. Because I think like if you're gonna come here to live and it's somewhere different, what you really want to get out of it is the place and where you are. And I think you come here to experience New Zealand as a country, and your job is going to be a little bit more inconsequential, to me at least. So find somewhere you want to live and then try and find a job there, and just be very flexible. Be open with your options, and I think you will get a job. There are some places like Queenstown that are just super busy, especially like summer and winter. So it's going to be a little bit harder to find a job in places like that. But if you're kind of open with your options and maybe do a job that you might not normally do in whatever country you're from, it's kind of a cool way to try something new, and you'll meet a lot of new people, and yeah. There is also a skills shortage list. Since New Zealand is a small country, there are just some skills that not a lot of people have. So if you have those skills, then it'll be really easy to come here and get a job and get visas and all that. So check those out. For residency, no, it's not easy to get. I think if you move here, just don't plan on that being the thing that you're gonna get. Just plan on it as an adventure and then see what happens. There are options if your job really likes you. They have to prove that they can't hire a New Zealander, but if they can prove that they can't hire a New Zealander, they might be able to sponsor you, and so you can stay. Again, check the skills shortage list. If you can get an initial first visa, just come and then figure it out later, is my advice. Oh, I would say Mexican food. No, just kidding. I miss like places like New York sometimes, like just big bustling cities where you can do anything you want any time of day, and it's full of just all different kinds of people like doing everything, whatever they want. I really like that kind of energy and that feeling of just like anyone fits in there because anything goes. I like that. In New Zealand, it's not so much like that. Auckland's a pretty big city, but it's not the same feeling to me. New Zealand is a very small country. I also really appreciate like the calm quietness, but sometimes I just like miss like a big bustling city with all different kinds of people. How is life with sandflies? Well, fortunately there aren't really sandflies in Christchurch. That's a bonus of living in Christchurch. And actually I haven't encountered too many recently, knock on wood. Where are they? There are a lot of them on the west coast of New Zealand, at least the South Island, the west coast. What helps is really just covering your entire body. You can try and use like insect repellent. That sometimes works, sometimes not. The other tip is if you get bitten by them, and you can feel when you get bitten by them because it hurts. The main thing is do not touch it, don't scratch it, don't do anything. If you don't touch it at all, then eventually like it will never like swell up and get really itchy. That's what I learned from Nick, but in my personal experience, it's really hard not to touch them. And especially if you get them on your feet, because then you're wearing shoes and the shoes rub up on them, and oh, I get really bad sandfly reactions, like they puff up like huge on me. Nah. Do you get homesick? I do get homesick, actually. It's really hard to explain, but I think anyone who's ever lived in another country, you might be able to understand that sometimes I just feel like I don't fit in, or like, I don't want, it's not like a sad thing, but it just feels like, don't know how else to describe it besides feeling like sometimes I just don't fit in. Like it's just, people who grew up in New Zealand have like their own set of cultural values and things that they grew up doing and things that they know, and like on holidays it feels different, especially because here in New Zealand it's like the upside down. The seasons are all opposite, so Christmas is in summer, and so I kind of miss like that cold weather, like cozy winter holiday vibe. And then like Halloween, they don't really celebrate here, so I really miss that. Just it's little things like that that they're not big deals, but sometimes it just makes me, like, reminds me that I'm somewhere different. One reason why I really recommend everyone to travel is that it really makes you appreciate where you're from. Awesome! So exciting that you're doing a road trip. Summer is a great time to do a road trip. It also is really busy in New Zealand during that time. So for accommodation, you might need to book up some places early, especially just places like Queenstown. They're gonna book up early. If you're renting a car, also book that as soon as you can, because the prices will go up. In summer, it's busier, so just try and book things a little bit earlier if possible. Just have a really good time. Try and see as much as you can and stay safe on the road. The roads here are a little different than maybe where you're from, so just try to use caution and follow the road rules and read up and learn about them before you start driving. So those are my main tips. Have fun. Well, originally I just came to travel and I had the working holiday visa, so I planned on maybe just working for a couple months and then going off to travel somewhere else. Ended up meeting a guy here and then yada yada yada. Now it's been 2 years. So I did know, like, I always wanted to go to New Zealand. I love hiking, I love the outdoors, so it just seemed like a perfect adult playground for all of that. Before I came here, I also knew I wanted to go to Australia. However, I did make a choice. I had a feeling like I needed to go to Australia first, because I just had this feeling that if I went to New Zealand first, I might never end up making it to Australia, to live at least. So yeah, I am glad I went to Australia first. It's not necessarily better. I think it just depends on the person who you're asking. It just depends what type of things you like to do and what kind of vibes you're looking for and how you like to spend your free time. They're both great places. Australia has some beautiful, gorgeous places and so many great beaches and some really cool cities. So you can compare them, but they're also like pretty different as well. So I don't know, if you can, I recommend seeing both. How did you get a job, apartment, and a visa? The first visa I got was the working holiday visa. So if you don't know what it is, it's such a good opportunity and a way to come live in a different country. Depending where you're from, usually it's for people ages 18 to 30. I applied just online before I was in New Zealand, and I think it took about 2 weeks to get. It was really easy. All good. And I have a whole video about that if you want to know more about that. I've had 2 jobs here. The first job was I was a bartender at a restaurant just nearby, so I just literally walked in and was like, are you hiring? Here's my application. And then the most recent job I had, I found on Trade Me, which is kind of like Craigslist for here. Yeah, it's just a job search. There's also a job site called Seek that is where a lot of job postings are. And then also found the apartment on Trade Me. So Trade Me, it's a good resource. How do I handle the distance between me and my family? I think it is actually hard. I mean, I haven't lived like at home where my family lives for a long time. Like since I was 18, so yeah, kind of a while. So I'm kind of used to not seeing my family all the time by now. But here is the hardest place just because it's so far. Even when I lived in New York, it felt hard because I was like, oh, it's all the way across the country from California. But here is like, multiply that by 3 and then some, and yeah, so it just feels a bit different. You feel really far away. But the good thing is the internet now, it makes it so easy to keep in touch. There's emails, messages, you can do FaceTime, there's a lot of options. Top 3 places to explore. Oh, there are so many good places. Where do I even begin? Okay, number 1, I would say the Queenstown area. It's like kind of super touristy, all the tourists go, but I think it has like a really nice energy. It's just full of all these people just looking to have a good time. It's also known as the adventure capital of New Zealand. It has so many things that you can do, like bungee jumping and a lot of extreme sports and just all kinds of stuff. And it's kind of like this cool little like town, and it's just pretty fun. So that's one place I'd recommend going. Number 2 is one of my favorite day hikes in New Zealand, the Tongariro Alpine Crossing. I thought it was just amazing. Just the different landscapes, and there's just volcanoes, and there's like these crazy blue pools, and it's just really epic. That's one of my favorite things. Number 3 is Aoraki Mount Cook National Park. It's New Zealand's tallest mountain, and there's just a lot of walks you can do around there, and it's just really beautiful all different times of year. Looks different, and yeah, I think it's a really cool place. So those are some of my 3 top favorites. Updated wardrobe. Oh, that's interesting. Well, I guess like on a day-to-day life, living here, wardrobe is basically like anywhere else. It's pretty similar to US clothing, I don't know, on just day-to-day like workwear and all that. As far as what was in my packing video, I still have a lot of outdoor gears. I probably just have more of the outdoor gear. Oh, it's really not that different from the US. It's pretty similar, so. Favorite hike? Oh, there's so many. I already said, but one of my favorites is the Tongariro. Oh no, this is too hard. You're gonna be in Christchurch though. I'll tell you what to do in Christchurch. I recommend Mount Herbert. Although spring is lambing season, which actually means it might be closed. I think you said spring. Lambing season is when the baby lambs are born. Oh, New Zealand is great for sheep and cows. Okay, well, if it's not lambing season, I'm not sure. You'll have to check. But Mount Herbert, I'd recommend. A really nice little adventure for a day is take the ferry from Littleton over to Diamond Harbour, and then you start the walk in Diamond Harbour, go to the top, see amazing views, go back, take the ferry across, have a little bite to eat in Littleton, and that's a great day. North or South Island? Ooh, contentious question. I think overall I prefer the South Island, but it's just because I love the mountains, the huge mountains, and there also still are really nice coastlines and beaches. I do actually really like the North Island as well. I haven't spent as much time on the North Island. I like the more kind of tropical vibes up at the far north, and Wellington's really cool, and there's some cool other little like small towns and cities, so they're both cool. I just do really like the Southern Alps in the South Island. Do you like Marmite? If you don't know what Marmite is, well, it's similar to Vegemite. If you don't know what Vegemite is, then it's like this brown paste that you spread on toast. It's made from yeast. It has like B vitamins in it. It tastes very salty. Am I selling it yet? Actually, yeah, I do kind of like it now. At first I thought it was so weird, but now I'm kind of into it. Yeah, sure. On toast with some butter, why not? And then there's just a lot of questions about what is my favorite place in New Zealand. Honestly, I don't know if I can just pick one place. But my favorite overall thing about New Zealand, I think, is just the change of landscape and the ease of access to all different kinds of landscapes and road trips. I just think a road trip in New Zealand is one of the best things, and it's just so common. What I like is that when you're on a road trip and you're just driving through all this different scenery, and every turn you do is like a whole new scene. It's just really easy to get around to all different parts of the country. Just being able to travel around easily, and that it's like a really commonly accepted thing is travel here. It's just kind of like a given that people travel. And that's what I think is really cool about New Zealand. Those are your questions. I hope I gave you some good answers. Sorry if I didn't answer your question. There were just a lot to choose from. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to see more more about New Zealand, I have so many New Zealand videos. I'm gonna link the New Zealand playlist. Watch the videos and you'll get a good idea of places you might like to go. I hope you're all doing well, and thanks so much for watching, and subscribe if you're not. And you can see more New Zealand stuff coming up in a couple months. For now, I'm off to the US. All right, bye.